somebody would show up for tonight's event. And then I thought we'd probably do it in a dark room with masks. So it's nice to see your smiling faces. This is going to be a two-way conversation. I'm going to have our panel talk about their areas of expertise. And I'm going to start with the scientists, but probably in a half an hour, we'll start opening up the floor to questions. If you have questions, and don't be afraid to ask anything you want. You know, I've done beer making, Emily, is that right? And I've done the Japanese earthquake. We've done identity theft and hiding data. We've done so many. We did the Dali interface with science and mathematics, where Peter was one of our experts. But I gotta say, this is the most unusual science cafe that I've ever had. And I was a little bit shocked that we were going to do it, but I'm glad we're doing it. And Debbie, let me start with you as the scientist. My first question is: are orgasms exclusive to the human species?
Hell no. Orgasms, any animal that has a nervous system, and it starts with the jellyfish, goes through the flatworms, goes through the roundworms, the segmented worms, we're into the crunchy arthropods, the crabs you eat, the lobsters you eat. When they mate, they get it on, they feel pleasure. Dogs, fish, mice, way beyond.
Where did we get this idea that animals do not experience orgasm?
Scientists, I'm embarrassed to say. Yeah, for anybody who has a pet knows that your pet has emotions. Sadness, depression, excitement, and dogs are humping because they are driven to get to the big O. And I'll explain the big O in some great detail in a minute. But for whatever reason, psychologists decided that animals were, the scientists in us, decided that animals were robots. They couldn't think. They just responded to stimuli. It started with Skinner. And back in the 1960s, when I was actually a psychology major as an undergraduate, that's what I was taught. And only in the last probably 15 years are biologists now looking at the brains and the emotions of animals and realizing that they are far more emotional than we are. They're stressed longer, they feel it longer, it's more intense when you leave. Where we differ is not in our ability to have emotions and they don't. We have the ability to override our emotions with a cognitive, thoughtful sense. Like, I know when my son leaves home that likely he will come back, so I don't yearn for him the way my cat yearns for me when I leave. She's sure I'm never coming back. And it's always thrilled when I do, but yeah.
How do scientists, I mean, if we know that animals have orgasm, how do we know? I mean, give us an example.
Okay, so now I go to my pictures, and let's see if I can do this. You know, being an instructor, I can't live without the big O and the big power, the big P, the power. Okay. What is she doing? Yes. What else? Coming, but how can you tell? She's not just singing. What you will see is her neck is thrown back. She is absolutely submissive, being submissive and submissive to the experience. She has allowed somebody to come close enough to her. She's not threatened. And every animal that goes in for an attack will go through the throat. It's the quickest way to close off oxygen and shut a body down within 4 minutes. When we throw our necks back, it's because we are feeling the universal love and gratefulness for the one big gift of the universe that every animal has, although not all women, we'll get to that in a moment. So, and her mouth is open, and Now, what you don't see, and as a biologist you should know, is that the uterus is contracting, the anal area, the anus, is contracting. I usually have a big stick. During orgasm, the sperm that has been deposited in the vagina gets actually sucked up closer and into the, through the cervix and into the uteral wall. And that's a whole story there. And we'll talk about clitoris. So you have all of these muscular contractions. And guys, here's a little anatomy for you guys as well. We'll go over the G-spot shortly. But your anus contracts as well. Your testicles, your balls, be proud of them. They rise up. You've got semen going through this whole canal, actually, and out the urethra, actually up here, around here, and then out the opening. We have 3 openings. You only have 2. I'm not sure if that means we're more advanced or less, but that's arguable. Our breathing changes. We get warm, we sweat, our bodies vibrate, all kinds of things. And there's this crying out that is very different than singing, but sometimes not. So yeah. So we can talk about the anatomy of orgasm, but where do we feel the pleasure and the relaxation? Anybody? The brain is our biggest sex organ. And let me tell you, every organism, not the Nigeria, not the coral, but beginning with flatworms, has a brain. And so and there's a reason why would we mate if we weren't driven biologically and driven emotionally to merge with somebody? Animals will kill us. And yet we have to get through that inhibition, and the big orgasm is nature's beautiful gift to all of us, all animals, including us.
Beautiful explanation. Okay, very good. Butch, what's the purpose of orgasm?
Well, Debbie, I want to say first of all, Dr. Cassill was my biology professor over at the University of South Florida, so
12 years ago. He's grown up.
And so it's pretty intimidating speaking next to her on this topic because
I've been there, he hasn't. 65. And I think it's a little harder for a young man to talk about these things.
but I told her I would lean on her for a lot of this discussion, and as far as the purpose of an orgasm, I would want her to be able to explain it, because she'd be able to explain it much better than I can.
Yeah.
I will chime in when it comes to the marine animals, and we'll get more into that.
And they're masturbating. The purpose is that sperm must leave your body, and it must go into our vesicle, the vagina. That's the whole point. But, and so you guys, while you're engaged in mating, do I have, okay, let me put this down. Imagine a rhino, a big, square type animal. Oh, okay, okay. And it mounts up on top of a female. Now, its eyes are way up here. Her vagina is way back here. She can't see his penis. She can't see her vagina. How the hell they ever get it in, I don't know. But I've got videos if you ever want to take my second. And so he is incredibly vulnerable. Here's this 4,000 ton or 2-ton, 4,000-pound animal up on its back legs. The female can't move. She's holding him, and horny that he is. And he needs to know when the payload has been delivered, because until he delivers it, he's vulnerable to attack. Number one, he's vulnerable. His gonads are vulnerable, and there have been lionesses that will attack during mating and eviscerate a rhino, and they bleed out, and then they get eaten. So he needs to know the payload's delivered, and the big orgasm is his message. It's done. I can relax, and that's why males have orgasms.
I want to know about the chemical reaction in the brain. You said that the brain was the pleasure center. What chemicals are released, and is there any relationship between those chemicals and chemicals that we might become addicted to?
Absolutely. Endorphins, dopamine, melatonin, serotonin are all, we now know, neurotransmitters that stimulate different parts of our brain. And the brain's a modular system, much like a computer is made of different parts. So it's released, and what it does, it gets into our blood system and goes into our muscles and causes us to relax. And it's more, men particularly are driven by the anticipation of mating many times more than they are the actual getting of the female. The orgasm's great, but then there's that letdown. Turns out that about 5% of all primates, including humans, but monkeys as well, have an addictive brain chemistry. I'm not familiar with the part of the brain, but I think it has to do with the amygdala, I think. And about 5% of people are also addicted to sex. And it's something that, an addiction is something that is all powerful. You are obsessed. You will do it to the point where you will prefer that to work. You will hunt a female, or you will masturbate 15 times a day until your poor parts are sore, unless you're using the right equipment and the right lubricants.
Didn't we just have in the news recently where a woman committed suicide because of that?
Because of her addiction?
Because she could not get it off, I guess.
Oh.
And
I missed that.
she committed suicide because she couldn't take it anymore.
That was in Tampa Bay Times.
Was it local? Wow. I will be looking that story up in time.
Well, I want to ask about, well, there's so much I want to ask about. This idea that men enjoy the pursuit and not so much, I mean, up to orgasm.
Yeah.
And then I wonder about the kind of graph of pleasure and chemicals released for men and the graph of chemicals released for women that cause that addiction, because it seems that women have that glow. I mean, I read about it something. that for women the glow remains longer than for the men.
Absolutely. We're lucky. It takes us forever. And I will tell you, men can be excited. Here's the idea, the light bulb. Men get excited, erection happens immediately, and then they plateau and crash within 3 minutes. That's all it takes. It's more like an itch, and you're just driven to satisfy that itch, and then you're done. Sadly, in the movies, it's programmed like this for men and women. But in real life, women require 15 to 20 minutes of foreplay before, and the plateau grows slowly, levels out, and this is the point at which if the dog barks, if the baby cries, we're done. We don't get there. But if we're not completely distracted, we can continue on to the orgasm, and it shows it going down, but it actually doesn't. It will level off at about that intermediate stage, and we can go again and again and again, because we are right here is where we can continue on, and then it'll level off right there and go up and up multiple times if the mood is right. And so foreplay is absolutely essential for women to and we'll get to the G-spot. I'll hang on to that. Is it okay if I go?
Okay, yeah, I think so. I think we're about ready for the G-spot. Let's talk.
Now,
is there a G-spot?
Yeah, there is. One of the reasons. One of the.
I didn't say it. She said it.
She said that there is a G-spot.
Yeah, there is.
I'm 75 years old. I had nothing to do.
Yeah. So one of the questions that biologists have is why are we so different from the males? And biologically, one of the answers, and it's just what we think today, is that we are testing males to see if they're going to be committed to us. Because we cannot raise a baby historically. Actually, today we can. But over evolutionary time, humans have required males for protection for food. We've got a 9-month parasite growing in our body for 9 months. Then it's an external parasite for a couple of years while we lactate. And then it's, it continues to be an external parasite for up to about 18 years. Teaching, you're feeding them, cleaning them, blah, blah, blah. And we can't do it alone. We need men. Men, you guys are awesome. I love you. I can't imagine a world without you. But most men are biologically programmed to get the seed into the vagina, move on to the next vagina. We like variety, which is why we need to help them dress up and pretend to be something that we're not once in a while. Make it fun for them. But we require males who are committed to us. And so if a male is committed enough to delay his 3 minutes of pleasure and satisfy us first and then satisfy himself, that's a man that you want. Now, let's get to the G-spot. That's a man you want to keep. Unless you're just into playing too, and that's okay. We're going to do a little more anatomy, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here is the external clitoris, right here. Cute little thing. Anatomically, it's called a failed penis. It's exactly a small penis. Failed, not necessarily a great word, but it gets the point. And then here are this kind of shading here are our labia that would be the scrotum for the male. This is all attached to the clitoris and will stimulation can occur around here, much like the glands on the head of the penis, but not so hard and so firm that it gets sore. And women, we need to tell them what works and what doesn't work. But all of this becomes part of our sensory systems. 8,000 neurons right here, huge amount. And then we've got the uterus and the vaginal opening. And now we'll get to the G-spot and the 2 kinds of orgasms that you can have. One, okay, here's the G-spot. It's right inside the vagina, toward the pubis, toward the clitoris. And it's just a soft hump of tissue. And it doesn't have nearly as many nerve endings, although it can. And in fact, some people don't have nerve endings on the clitoris, they have them lower into the vaginal area, and so they have get more excitement from there, but that's unusual. So what this does is that these are our 2 orgasms. One is, oh, I gotta show this. I can tell it, but I love the pictures. Oh, by the way, the G-spot is kind of a remnant of the prostate, which is in the anus, and if you put a finger up the anal area, you can rub the prostate, and that's as pleasuring as our G-spot is. So here are the two orgasms. The vaginal orgasm with the G-spot, very relaxed. It's not, you're not screaming. Maybe you are, I'm not. But the clitoral orgasm is very intense. This is softer, slower, pleasurable. This is intense and much like the male. Masturbation is one way to achieve it, and the finger. For males, it's a lot of males think that what turns us on is to put a finger in our vagina. No. You have to be rubbing that G-spot for 15 to 20 minutes. It's not going to arouse you the way the clitoris is. So you, yeah. What drives me nuts is it's in the books. You know, all of the romance novels, like, Jesus, can't they get it right? So anyway, you rub around the clitoris, around it, and occasionally on it. But again, we women need to masturbate so that we can figure out what works for us. Please use lubricants and use little, I think their lubricants now have little heat to them. Yeah, totally. Do you have some tonight? Yeah, okay. Awesome. Yeah. And guys, you can use your tongue. It's naturally lubricated. I love it. And then we're going to get into this female ejaculation. That's okay, and then I'm pretty much done. Turns out that it's a little bit of urine, and it's about 2 or 3 teaspoons full or a tablespoon full. And the muscle contractions around the urethra and the anus are so intense that women sometimes give a very clear urine. It's hitting the muscles around the bladder as well. And they'll just kind of squirt pee. Not quite the golden shower, but so this is pretty much all I have to say. It's important that we communicate. 90% of women only reach orgasm with clitoral stimulation. Only 10% with vaginal stimulation. We actually both are really cool. And that's it. Now we'll just kind of get into more questions.
Yeah, very good. I've got a few more questions though for our other panelists. Yes. And Butch, I want to ask you about dolphins. And now that we've reached this plateau, we're going to hold this plateau for a few minutes. Let's talk about dolphins. I hear that they are the horniest creatures out there. Is that right?
They are, and I just want to say, I don't want to boast that I was the gentleman here and let Deby get to where she needed to go, and now I'm going to give you the 3 minutes. I'm going to be done. So I am a marine science person. I'm born and raised in St. Petersburg on the beaches. I've grown up on boats and going out scuba diving. I've seen lots of dolphins. I've worked with a lot of dolphin trainers. And honestly, if you talk to any marine biologist, not trainer, they're going to tell you they don't trust a dolphin more than anything. And dolphins are extremely intelligent. I do love dolphins. I appreciate every marine organism, marine animal out in the wild. But dolphins do have such a high intellect that they do things for pleasure. And so they are pretty horny little dudes. They will, and not that they're just horny, part of sexual relationships is building bonds. And socializing. And that's pretty much what they specialize in. They're very social. And so they don't care if it's a dolphin or something else. They're going to express their social behavior. I'm going to see if I can find or put it up. There it is. And they spend a lot of their time caressing each other. They mate a lot. They don't really have sex to reproduce. They will do it for the social aspect, for the fun of it. They'll do it all year long. So I'm sure you've heard that they're the only other animal that really enjoys sex besides humans, and they definitely are right up there. And so the reason I don't really trust them that much is here's a quick example, which some of you may have seen before. And you got your nice little dolphin experience there. That, oh my goodness. When I'm in the water with a dolphin, I just don't know what in the world it's planning, what it wants to do. And, when I got into marine science, my first love was with sharks. And people said, well, you're crazy. Sharks are dangerous. You don't know what they're going to do. They can kill you. And honestly, sharks are more instinctual than anything. They don't really do things as for pleasure like dolphins do. I could be in the water and I see a dolphin down there and I'm not going to trust him. And just like I don't trust the dark individual, the shadowy individual at the end of the alley. They don't know what they're going to do. And so, with a shark, if I'm in the water with a shark, I pretty much know what he's planning, what he's doing. He will posture, I know what he's up to. And I know he's not going to try to start making a move on me. So, I respect dolphins, but they have such a capacity for their intellect that which has made them such amazing animals and be able to survive. It's incredible, but I choose not to be in the water half the time with them.
That was a male dolphin attacking a male, well, attacking, I don't know if that's the right word for it, mounting a male on the dock, right? Do female dolphins have an attraction to humans at all? Yes, if I was interested, only in the scientific.
It's hard to understand if they're actually attracted to the human or not because you can't really ask them. But you can only go at face value of what their actions are. But they, you just don't know.
You witness the way the males do?
So, I wish I had another video, but they really, that what you just saw, yes, that's how they do it. They go face to face. The male has a prehensile penis, in which not only serves as the reproductive organ, but also acts as the grab hole. So that's how they can stay attached to the female and not let her get away.
You know, that dolphin was trying to mount that guy. I wonder, you know, in animals or humans, is there a chemical scent that humans or animals exchange, or humans exchange with humans, animals exchange with animals, that indicates that they're interested in sex or turned on or whatever? Can you talk about the kind of the precursor, not just what happens during orgasm, but leading up to sex?
So, most primates and dolphins will mate for pleasure. It's a way to bond, as Butch was saying. It's a way to establish social relationships, because without them, you're less likely to survive. And sex and love are a couple of the emotions that bond us. Most animals, oddly, don't mate all year long. They have a mating season, and when that season's over, birds and most mammals, their gonads shrivel up, and there's not a sexual thought in their brain until the next mating season. And how they find each other, if they're not social, they have to go long distances like the elephants do to find a partner. And pheromones in the insect world, because they're small and they're not as visual as we are, pheromones are the way that they are able to signal, I'm ready to mate. I've got one really cute story about an insect, but elephants do that too. And they also give off this infrasound, very low level sound. They have this melon on their head that they are able to squeeze, and it gives a very long low. It's lower than what we can hear. So it goes through the trees for 200 to 300 miles, and the females will pick it up, or the males will pick it up on their feet, which are also melon, fluid-filled things. And they feel the vibration of that sound, and they know it's a call, so they'll go find one. But my favorite courtship story is this little scorpion fly. It's an ancient one, kind of an ancestor of today's flies and dragonflies. And the male has this long snout, and he has big spit glands. And so he'll get a moth, and then he'll spit out like a spider, and it's a long, silky string, and he wraps this moth up in a package. And he hangs upside down on a branch, and then he sends out this pheromone. It's the siren song, perfume, we do the same thing. And a female scents it, and she flies down the gradient of the pheromone until she sees him, and then she hangs upside down beside him. She does this very characteristic wing shake, and she's telling him, I'm of the same species, I'm a female, I've got eggs, and you look like you've got sperm, I'm ready to think about mating. So he hands over his gift, all wrapped up, and she unravels it, and she bites it. And if it's juicy enough and delicious enough and fresh enough, she's impressed, she lets him mate with her. But if it's not, the bitch drops it on the floor. He's gone to all this work, and no offspring. So there are two ways that males have circumvented the coy female. One of them is a male will come down, a second male, first male gets and wraps it up, blah, blah, blah. Second male scents it, and he hangs upside down beside the first male and pretends to be a female, the transvestite. And he gives the old female wing wiggle. The unsuspecting first male hands it over. The second male grabs it, thumps his nose at the first male, and uses it to go get a female. And then there's a second strategy that he uses, third reproductive strategy. He doesn't catch anything. He just leaves a really big spitball. Female comes along, it's handed to her, and she's unraveling and unraveling and unraveling, and he just hops on her and rapes her.
Oh. Some humans think that they can shortcut this attractiveness by putting on pheromones and all that in the back of magazines. You see that for lonely males, that they say wear this not perfume, but wear this scent, and you'll be able to attract females. Is there anything to that?
Yeah, we have a veronasal organ in our nose. We can't detect the odor. I mean, our nose has sensors for detecting things we can smell, but pheromones are not one. Turns out, and good for you for knowing that we are often attracted subconsciously to men who are similar, but not the same as our dads. Wow. And we were repelled from the pheromone that our father or brothers will give off, but attracted to somebody who's likely a near neighbor, and in the tribal days, and what it does is it prevents incest, and yet at the same time allows us to mate with somebody who's, sorry about that, it's my snooze alarm to remind me to do something, not tonight. So anyway, yeah, we have that. And for some women, it's much more intense in their mate selection than it is for other women.
So Beleek, your turn. I want to know what capitalism has learned from these two scientific disciplines. What have you guys found out that works in terms of achieving orgasm?
That people will spend large amounts of money to get off. From the variety of toys that we sell and to see the things that do sell, it's kind of astonishing even to this day to see what will be so popular, and we'll go through phases of things that will become really increasingly popular.
Well, let's talk about some of the sex toys that you have that work, that people come back to you and say, Beleek, thank you, this has changed my life.
I got a whole box.
Okay, let's bring them out. And in a few minutes, we're going to take your questions too. Howard, how are we doing on time? Are we okay? We're good. Okay. Whoa.
All right, so yeah, those are scary. We'll save those for later. One of the big things, it's actually our #1 seller, is surprisingly men are completely insecure about their endowments. So our #1 seller is the Bathmate. It's a penis enlarger, and they sell for about $1.60. They're pretty expensive, but that is by far our most popular seller. So basically, what a guy does is he puts his he puts his member in and fills it up with water, and then you push it down and it releases some of the water. Yes, I love it. So slowly over time, it enlarges.
Is the change permanent?
I'm not quite sure, but I've seen, we watched a couple of YouTube testimonials, and it apparently works. It became incredibly popular after comedian Daniel Tosh featured it on his show Tosh 4.0. And that's a huge part of it too, is whatever pop culture will sort of feature. Lately we've been selling a lot of whips and Kegel balls because of 50 Shades of Grey. The rabbit vibrator became super popular right after Sex and the City featured it. So it's sort of whatever society will sort of allow us to get into.
Okay, you've got a lot of insecure men.
Yes.
And let me ask you this. The penis does not contain a bone.
No.
Yeah.
Many mammals, there is a penile bone, that's okay, I'll yell, called the baculum. And in the Bible, it's not Adam's rib that formed Eve, it's actually Adam's baculum, because we're one of the few mammals that doesn't have the bone in the penis. So they had to make an explanation for it.
So the challenge for any man, I think, I'm sorry to talk about men, but
Sure.
the challenge for any man is to get the blood flow into the penis, right? That's the challenge, if he wants his penis to be big.
Right.
So does this, and hard, does this make you big and hard?
According to testimonials, it does.
Let's try that. Actually, I'm sorry I didn't bring it. There's a book out by one of my other former biology students, Aaron Cameron, called Exercising the Penis. How to make your prized organ harder, healthier, and something else, I forget.
So tell us how
one of the things there's called jelqing, where and you should read the book first, because you can overdo it and damage the penis. But it's an organ that's flexible, and it's got tubes on the inside where the blood flows in, very sponge-like. And it's a muscle, so you can stretch it and build it just like any muscle. And there's something called jelqing that you can do this little thing, number, and you bring your penis up to a semi-erect stage, and then you do some exercises with it. And the testimonials are phenomenal. Girth and length have increased 50% and 80%. On average, that's just an average. So yeah.
All right.
Give you a discount.
So Beleek, let's talk about. I'm sorry. Is there a question?
How do you use that?
You have to.
Oh, that?
Yeah.
They use it in the bathtub. So they fill up the cylinder once the penis is in it. They fill it up with water, and then there's a gauge on the end of it. So they'll push down, and it'll shoot water out, and it'll it'll sort of pull on the penis to enlarge it.
So I send it around.
Oh yeah, sure. That was actually a broken one. No one's penis has been inside of it. So, yeah. You can actually look up the Daniel Tosh video. vibrator.
Okay, now how does that work?
It just fills up with batteries and you turn it on and it's got a little curved tip.
It's anatomically incorrect. The G-spot, this is going to go right to the cervix. It's going to totally miss the G-spot, which if...
you have it all the way.
Yeah, right here is where the G-spot is, if this is the vagina and the opening. So I guess you would have to just sort of insert it
Just a little bit,
Yeah.
What's it made of?
I believe this is just plastic. We have a lot of products that are TPR, which they dub sex flesh. It's supposed to be super realistic. I have a friend in there that's very realistic. So we do a lot of plastics and a lot of...
And this is a big seller.
Yep, this is a very popular seller. Actually, our number one dom, I don't want to alarm anyone, it is a penis, so I'm going to pull it out. This is a defective one that my friends gave me.
Oh,
It's so hilarious.
Yeah.
It's super popular and it's super floppy, but for whatever reason, that's our number one seller.
I've not seen this one. May I pass it around?
Yeah, sure.
You've got it.
That's actually just a suction cup dong. It doesn't do anything. It's just a pallet.
Like that.
And do people use that to pleasure themselves? Or?
Yeah,
I'll
and
tell
we're...
you how it works. If I may.
Yeah, please. We were always baffled by it. It's so floppy.
It turns out for women, a lot of the vibrators, it's too much stimulation. This one is soft enough that as it goes in and out, it's going to create a little friction and be exactly what we want. So I'm going to vibrate.
I'm not liable. I'm not liable if anyone hurts themselves. Either or not, we'll see you someday.
No, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, here's the rabbit vibrator. Those are really popular.
So this is big on Sex in the City. Now,
Yeah.
so talk about this for a moment. What was?
It does all sorts of things. It's got a little stimulator for the clitoris. The beads, I believe, can stimulate your G-spot. This can rotate around like that.
This anatomically works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it goes in, and at the same time, so you've got vaginal sensations, and yeah, this can go. I don't know.
Yeah, that wiggles. A little bunny ears wiggle.
Yeah. Around.
It's funny how many toys we have that are shaped like animals.
Yeah. All right. I'll send this one too. We'll make sure they get back.
Okay. All right. So you guys have a research department?
No, not really.
How old is the company?
The company is only like 2 years old. Like 2.5 years old.
And do you how do you do the demonstrations? Do you have parties at people's houses, like Tupperware parties? Or?
No, but we've I guess 50 Shades parties have become increasingly popular. We're an online retail company, so we just put all our products out there online and whatever sells sells.
Well, let's see some more of the product.
All right. Here's a nice door swing aid if you're feeling adventurous for some acrobats in the bedroom.
I'll show the picture.
Get up in that swing.
Glass dildo.
Glass dildos. This is my favorite because it's like sands of time. It's got little beads in it that move around.
That'd be fun.
It's Pyrex glass. If you can heat it up, you can put it in the fridge. And they smell really well. We actually just got a sugar.
Does that time the ideal amount of foreplay with a man?
I don't know how you can get it to turn. I think you have to do like a headstand. Oh, they're dishwasher. She's one of my fellows. I love that.
I would imagine that you have to warm that up or it's going to feel cold if you've got the air conditioning.
Some people might want it cold. There is such a thing as temperature play that's pretty popular. But I don't know. I wouldn't decorate that one because of the beads, but I think we would probably be able to like get like a warm cloth and wrap it.
You know, I just, before we see some more of these, you know, Deb, I think that probably before the 1960s and before the 1970s, and I'll just speak from my experience, Playboy magazine and Penthouse magazine told men I think, about the importance of orgasm.
I feel you.
And because I don't think there was, especially female orgasm, we knew about it, male. But I just wonder, how deep is our knowledge about orgasm? I mean, are we just in the first 40 or so years of this? Or?
Yeah, and neat that you know that. For tribal people, it's no mystery. But for the prudish European ancestry that we come from, we're hidden. Women were not thought to have orgasm, and in fact, they for years called it hysteria. It was a diagnosis that when we were going, it was like we were hysterical, and we should not be doing that. So I hope some of you, if you've not seen the movie Hysteria, it's wonderful. And it gets into the fact, there's a young doctor who actually discovers the fact, or discovers that women, things that women are having orgasms like men. And his friend invents the sex toy, vibrator, the first vibrator. Yeah. And he was used to, as a medical physician, would do the little rotation around the clitoris for 45 minutes, and his hand became crippled and cramped. He was treating so many women because he was good at it. And he was relieved to get the vibrator because he could get women to orgasm within 15 minutes instead of the 45 minutes. But yeah, Playboy was essential as a teaching tool, and pornography is a teaching tool because we don't do a good job of talking to people 5 and older.
Hi. I read a book called 9 Parts Desire.
Oh.
And this is about Middle Eastern women, and it was written by a correspondent from the Wall Street Journal who was over there, and started looking into the fact that underneath a lot of women were starting to prevail about 20 years ago, and she was looking into what was going on because there was a lot of femme stuff going on underneath, negligees and high heels and dyed hair. The Khomeini's wife had blonde hair, but anyway. So what it says in the Quran, in one place, it says, Allah gave to human beings 10 parts desire, 9 parts he gave to women. So even though men could only have as many wives as they could satisfy, because over there, it's the complete flip side of us. In other words, women are extremely orgasmic, they know that, but they're also considered bestial. In other words, they're considered slave to their desire, the way that we sometimes think of men over here. We say, oh, men, all they think about is sex. We're sort of love it. Over there, it's just the opposite. It's one of the reasons, one of the rationales they use for why women couldn't go into, have any kind of responsibility.
Wow.
Yeah, because they were. But the interesting thing was they worked on their but it was also a way to keep you subjugated. It was also a way to keep you subjugated. So it's like you can't win.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's see maybe 1 or 2 more products, and then we'll open it up to more questions. Beleek, what else do you have for us?
Well, this is we call the Mommy Vibe. It's a quote-unquote back massager, and it's a traditional wand vibrator, and it comes with all sorts of attachments. I brought one that looks like Gonzo's nose from the Muppets. But the interesting thing for us is that I know on our side we do about 600 orders every Monday, and we know that people are buying these toys, but the shame that comes with these sort of items is that people don't want to talk about it. We get a lot of angry emails when people think our shipping is discreet enough. And it's just funny that all these people are doing it, but no one wants to talk about it. So here's the Gonzo nose.
Oh, what is it?
It's an attachment for the wand, but it looks like Gonzo's nose from the Muppets. It goes on the end of this.
Oh, it's another tool.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've never thought of Gonzo's nose as rock.
It's a blue curve.
I'm not quite sure I know what to do with this. Oh, anal or vaginal?
Any of
Okay, let's see one more that's popular. Or, it looks like there's so many good goodies in there. We haven't even gotten to
Alright, I'll give you guys a choice. You want to see a penis sleeve or do you want to see cable balls?
let's see the cable balls. And talk about what they're for.
The cable balls are used for exercising PVC muscles. It's basically the muscles that form your pelvic floor. Yeah. And basically there's an internal ball inside of each individual ball that when you have them inside, you can move around and it will sort of create a vibration almost.
And what's the importance of exercising your pelvic muscles for both men and women?
Turns out, and I've got a great video, but no time to show it. Oh, thank you. Turns out that women can bring themselves to orgasm just by the Kegel, which is just the squeezing of the vaginal muscles around the vagina. And it shows a woman doing this, and it's an amazing thing. There she is, no hands, just going through the squeezing motions, and it's one of the things that a sex therapist will, for a woman who's non-orgasmic, will start teaching her to use the Kegels. And all of us who are over 60, myself included, we know about the Kegel exercises for other reasons. But for men as well, it can increase the muscle tone and therefore the function.
But where does the man put the Kegel ball?
In the anus.
Really? Well, I had to ask. I mean,
Yeah.
Deb, what about human orgasmic response? Does it diminish the older you get?
Let's say that you're in your 50s or 60s.
I know it's a dumb question.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Everybody agrees. But some people, I think, give up on sex. And maybe their partners passed away or whatever. So talk about what you're capable of into your 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Totally functional, unless there is hardening of the arteries, but we've got the blue pill now to help with the flow of blood into the penis. And I think from what I've read, there's Art Magazine, and it'll say, yeah, you can be perfectly sexually active up until the day you die. Women need more lubrication. Men need a little more time, and men can reach an orgasm without erection. So if erection is an issue, you can still touch and feel just like it was an enlarged clitoris, and still bring yourself to orgasm. I think for a lot of people, it's more they get bored with it, and so you need toys. And you need to talk and make it a part of your relationship and keep that part alive. I think some of the healthiest relationships are those where the partners are still engaged with at least touching. If not reaching orgasm, at least touching.
And Beleek, do you have lubrication?
I don't have it.
So do you guys sell it?
No, we do.
You do?
We have little individual packets up to like gallon size. I don't know why you need that much lube, but we sell them.
For that weekend in Las Vegas. So tell me what the lubrication does. What does it taste like? What does it do for helping to achieve orgasm?
What flavor would you like? We sell every possible flavor. We sell candles that double as lubricants. And I think Debbie could probably explain why lubrication is so important.
Oh, yeah. Stimulation. I mean, actually, this is going to be fun.
It's a cat of nine tails.
Yeah. It's kind of soft and like velvet, so I'm going to pass that around. These are fun toys, and these are for...
Two women.
I guess, yeah.
Two men, actually. Yeah.
Two women. So you've got a double header here. It's very cool.
Beautiful wine color.
Yeah. So what was the question now? I forgot.
I was doing transport with
So you're talking about lubrication.
Yeah, and for men too, it's just the smoother. Oh, yeah, thank you. The smoother the touching, the less painful it is, and yet still stimulating. Because skin, if it's rubbed too hard, can hurt. And so it's important for both. Part of why you then want to spend your 15 minutes at least bringing us along in our orgasm is that we gain lubrication. And guys, imagine trying to go down a very dry slide. You know, water slide. When you were a kid, I used to try to go down and I would just get stuck if I had shorts on because my skin was hot and sticky. That's what it's like for us. If we're not lubricated properly, it's like trying to go down the slide and it's just not going to go in very well. So it's incredible.
And there's lubrications that change the temperature, right?
Yeah, we have cooling lubrications, we have heating ones, we have some that have topical numbing agents. So
And sugary and flavorful.
And would the heat accelerate the pace of the orgasm, or the cold accelerate the pace?
It's gonna stimulate. We can't tell the difference between hot and cold, literally. Our neurons don't know the difference. All they know, we only know it because we see something cold or hot. But the heat is going to turn on more neurons. It just has to be gradual. Otherwise, it's going to be too shocking.
Okay.
And the coolness is the same thing.
Well, I think everybody wants to ask a question. I was going to ask about pain and whips, but let's
Yeah.
I'm ready to go again here. I need to add a few more tidbits here.
Just a tidbit?
Just enough. So I just wanted to add in there, we're fortunate and unfortunate enough to have such a complex mind that we can seek out pleasure in reproduction and sex, where a lot of other animals on the planet are so basic in their life that is not an option. And in a lot of the instances, certain animals don't even come out alive after having sex. I've got some nice little examples here. Say the deep sea anglerfish. We've got the nice big female that's down there in the deep. It's really dark. You can't see anything down there. And when the male is born, he has no digestive tract. His sole mission is to seek out a female, plant his seed, and that's it. And since they're in the deep, dark ocean, once they find their mate, that's it. They need to hold on. And so the male, which is much smaller than the female, finds the female, latches on, and then he essentially becomes a parasite to that female. She actually just absorbs his body and takes his sperm to then recreate.
He becomes a gonad on her.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, they had no idea. Scientists were baffled that they just kept catching females. They didn't even know that there were males out there. And they just noticed the female has a lump on its head. It was actually the male that was just... The paper nautilus, which is a type of octopus, the male has a specialized tentacle called the hectocotylus, and it has a sperm bundle there. And when he finds his female mate, that hectocotylus actually breaks off and swims over to the female and is then attached to the female, absorbed into the female, and the male just dies from there. You have the praying mantis, I'm sure you've heard before, where they are in copulation when the female at least partially eats the male, if not the whole thing by the time they're done. So it's phenomenal that they go from the organisms that's their sole purpose. You don't know if they seek out pleasure or not. A lot of them might not, just to reproduce. And that's another big question is, do these animals do this for pleasure? Do they get pleasure from it, or is it totally instinctive? And for the most part, you have a gene that gives you the innate drive to reproduce. And so without that gene, the species will just disappear. So by being here, you know that your parents had that gene that drove them to reproduce, and that's what made you. So celebrate that you're a human, support Plug and Play there. Because male that or anything else that is just there to breed and don't get any pleasure from it. You have that ability and that complexity to have such a wonderful life.
Okay, back there, sir.
Yes, with visual aspects, earlier you showed a picture of a woman with a head bang and mouth open, throat position, ecstasy, with a head. But you didn't show what you have like, you look like you were in great pain.
You know, I saw only one photograph, and it was not a complimentary photograph of a man, you know, orgasming. It was drooling. Yeah. And the photo was so quickly, you know, we're like, you can get a picture of it, but a guy is like, done.
This is going to Dali's sexuality. Let's again clarify that for us because of why he chose monism. And I mean, if you're a voyeur and you're a masturbator, why would that keep you from also wanting to engage either the same or opposite sex outside of one of them?
So Dali was a voyeur and pretty much masturbated, and he's got plenty of that in his paintings, which are great. I'm going to speculate he was also probably schizoaffective, something disorder. He had hallucinations and very paranoid. So here is a man who is extremely paranoid of people and things, and people walk up to him and he sees them differently than the rest of us see them. Sometimes aggressive, sometimes saying things, he hears things. So he has learned from a very early age to avoid close contact because of the paranoia. They're going to poison me, they're going to kill me, they're saying awful things, they're going to try to hurt me. And yet, at the same time, he's a normal male going through puberty, and he has an orgasm. When he's touching himself, I think he was pooping, and he had an orgasm. The prostate gland was being stimulated. And so he gets pleasure by pleasuring himself and avoids people. That's not unusual for people who have schizophrenia.
But you can see the pleasure Dali was having. So
he could, as a voyeur.
He didn't want to partake.
He couldn't, because at the same time, it's just like the praying mantis. The male's brain is saying, don't go near the bitch, she'll kill me. And his brain in his forebrains, his brain in his abdomen is throbbing for lust. And Dali has the same conflict. He wants the pleasure, but he can't go close enough because he's terrified of people. He was always terrified of people.
Is that because of the father showing these
No.
things? Or was
My
it
opinion, it had very little to do with the environment. He was just one of these people who, it's actually an ability for him, schizophrenia, to see the world melting and to see the images that he saw and to recreate them on, in a way that we all can share his vision is incredible. Schizophrenia is actually much more common than we imagine. A lot of people see ghost-like figures and feel things, but it's not to the point where they're unable to function. That's only the extreme. And that's my take on it. There are many takes on Dali.
Because Peter, do you have any take on Dali's sexuality that you want to add to that?
Not to add to it, no. I think just that's another talk. We've done that talk actually several times, but I think we'll come back to that at a later date. But I think that what you said absolutely spot on. You know, just talking about Dali as a voyeur and the pleasure that's derived from that, but also the fear of that kind of contact is fundamental to him.
And a lot of people who don't have the cognitive ability, especially head injury, we've got this other brain, we regulate our impulses because we would die if we made it all the time. I mean, we wouldn't eat. So we've got this other brain that regulates our impulses, and for him, I think the impulses were much closer to the surface. And obviously, he painted many penises.
Bring it back here, man.
The animals, like animals go into heat, and well, they call the poor female dog a bitch, but she's in heat, and so that's only occasionally. That's not all the time, and we as humans, we have our monthly, and there's some desire there too. But like dolphins, do they have that in the water?
So dolphins do have seasons. They do have reproductive seasons, and when something goes in heat, that means they are ready to reproduce. And a lot of times with animals, a lot of that has to do with seasonality. They want to give birth to their young, not in the middle of the winter or in a harsh climate. They want to have their young at the right time, so they time that just appropriately. And that's when, say, they'll go in heat or be receptive, put out some sort of signal that lets them know this is the time to make it happen.
And that's when the females are going to mate, but the males are ready almost year-long. And they will mate more often with each other and use each other's blowhole to masturbate. How cool is that? Or they'll run up and down the grass bed, and females will do that too, younger females, to kind of figure out get their physiology and their brain chemistry going.
Okay.
What about homosexuality in where there's no reproductive purpose at all? Isn't there a lot more evidence coming out about homosexual pairing?
Yeah, there is. I'm sure Debbie will be able to expand on that. But there's definitely homosexuality, both female and male, throughout the animal kingdom. There's even masturbation between species. And I'm not totally sure of the absolute purpose for, say, the masturbation or the homosexuality, other than that they need that social companionship and that ability to relate to one another and build the social structure that they need to be supported.
That's exactly right. It's a bonding between males, and especially in the social organisms and the primates, where there are groups of males, elephants, herds of zebra. One of the ways that they maintain cohesiveness in the group is to pleasure each other. So, no big deal.
Does sea life have fish primarily? Do they have seasons as well, or is it kind of year-round?
Yes, fish most definitely do have seasons when they want to spawn, and it goes back to when it's going to be most beneficial for their. Most of the fish out there are broadcast spawners. They put their sperm and eggs up into the water column, into the currents, for them to mix, and to have the right conditions to make it to where they need to be to successfully be settled and grown up. So they definitely have that seasonality.
I've got one great story, and then what I'd like to do is, it's 7:30, if anybody needs to go, we'll stick around and answer some more questions. But sponges, there's one species of sponge that broadcasts its sperm once a year in November off the coast of Africa after the first quarter moon in November. And the male sponge ejaculate their sperm 2 to 3 meters in the water for up to 3 to 6 hours. Ejaculation. I'm impressed.
Let's take once a year.
Once a year.
One more question. Did you have a question?
I had a question. When like reproductive organs are altered, like when we spay and neuter our pets, or when a woman has hysterectomy, or how does that affect the mind?
Okay. So if you spay or neuter them before they reach maturity, it pretty much shuts down the testosterone and estrogen production that would grow the gonads bigger and focus them on mating at the right time. For us, we don't get spayed or spayed until menopause, and yet we continue to, we don't have a heat time. We're one of the very rare individuals that can mate all year long. Females are receptive all year long. And it's because males are so very important to our welfare. Also, we have one offspring at a time usually, and so we will have them over maybe a 10 or 20-year period, one a year or one every other year, and actually without male help, one every about 4 years. So we're always receptive, and we need that male to stay around, so we want to offer him the big O, and at the same time, we want pleasure too. So we're programmed for that.
Because of your comments and what we were talking about today, we're from all walks here, why aren't there more of these forums?
Amen!
I'm fascinated, most of us are, but this is part of our being,
it's who we are.
And as
Food
we
and sex.
evolve from what we see from women, be more, I guess, for the last 40, 50 years, and what you said about our publications and all these items now in the marketplace, there should be more of this, more from a behavioral science standpoint, to give more opportunity to understand
who we are and how to gain pleasure and how to communicate with each other. I teach a course every fall at our university on these topics, including sex toys, but not as cool as these are, but I'm bringing them in, especially the little squeezy one. And so it's now appropriate, thanks to feminism and kind of we women being tired of being put in the box and under the burqa. So thank you for reinforcing that idea. Yeah, it's important.
Everyone's doing it.
One way or another.
Yes. Well, we're going to hang around and take your questions in a more informal way, but thank you, Deby. Thank you very much.